A review code was provided free of charge by the developers. Hello everybody, my name is Xuul and welcome to Detached, a VR space sim experience where you fly around in 0G, which has competitive and intense aspects to it, including rockets and speed boosts. It's an intense experience, is all I can really say. I'm looking forward to reviewing this one for you guys, so without further ado, let's jump straight into this one. So Detached is a very intense locomotive game that focuses on 0G PvP combat. So obviously it has a few hurdles to get through in order for it to be successful, and does it do it? That is the question for today. First of all, let's talk outside of the gameplay experience. I want to focus a little bit more on the atmosphere of the game itself. Now, you are in an asteroid field, floating in space, so it's pretty goddamn cool, I have to say. Playing this game in the SGC Vive, you really sense the scale of just floating aimlessly. You know, you kind of have an existential crisis looking at how huge everything around you is almost. The atmosphere itself, the silence of the music, which is a very wonderful score, by the way. I highly recommend it. I think it's composed by the same guy who did The Witcher 3, so if that interests you, then perhaps you're interested in just the soundtrack of this game alone. Besides, from the asteroid field, you'll be entering many space stations that are all variant in their own special way. They all have kind of their own little thing, although I do appreciate that they put a little bit more thought into it rather than just making it a very straightforward space station. As you can see right here, I am going into the floor and finding another hallway that people would apparently walk through. So, you know, that's weird. I appreciate that, and obviously if you haven't watched any sci-fi movies, then you should probably look out for this sort of thing, because it's weird and you don't expect it, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. This cold experience that you have floating through this asteroid field and through these empty space stations is only heightened by the gameplay mechanics that are at effect here. So to start us off with these gameplay features that I'm talking about, let's talk about the oxygen and the fuel meter at the bottom of my helmet. As you can see, my oxygen meter is very low right now, and in this gameplay footage that you're seeing, I am realizing that if I don't make it out of here quickly enough, I will suffocate to death. And that is a terrifying thing to hear. That is quintessential towards this game, because it really heightens your feeling of loneliness, your isolation, and the absolute indifference the universe has to your demise. So you have to really struggle against that. Especially in an immersed experience like this, suffocating is terrifying, and it's quite the experience just living with that concept floating around in your head that you might not have enough air to make it through this next level. Another gameplay aspect that I really like about this game is the sense of impact that you have in your spacesuit. You cannot rush at full speed and land into a wall and expect you not to splatter your head and, you know, die because, you know, you ruptured your suit and then you died. So, I mean, that's something. So, in order to prevent yourself from smacking into walls and defending yourself from other players, you have a list of abilities that you have access to. You can put up a force shield around you, which can block enemy missiles. There is a speed boost, which I am demonstrating right here, which allows you to move slightly faster with your thrusters, as well as being able to shoot rockets at enemies. I haven't had a chance to test either the force shield or the rockets due to something that I will talk about in just a moment. On the whole, for the single-player experience, I definitely recommend this, especially if you are someone who's a bit of a VR veteran at this point. I don't know how much that means. I mean, it's only been out for less than a year. But if you do consider yourself very adjusted towards a virtual space and you are looking for something a little bit more intense, a little bit more captivating, then I highly recommend this game and the terrifying existential crisis that it may or may not cause you. Okay, so here's the thing about the multiplayer, is I have attempted to queue for this thing 3 separate occasions. I tried queuing for it on Sunday, Monday, and now again on Tuesday. There's 3 times I have been unable to connect to any session with any other player in the multiplayer game, which is really bad. It's kind of unfortunate towards a game that really wanted to focus on the PvP combat system. I wish that there were more people playing this game. I can't recommend the multiplayer if there isn't like a substantial community surrounding this game in order to warrant anybody else playing it with you, which is really unfortunate. The game developers put a lot of time and effort in towards this thing. I really hope that perhaps after this video, a community kind of sprungs up and more people stop playing it, but as of right now, I can't recommend this because you can't rely on the community because there isn't very many people playing the multiplayer right now. However, you will have to keep in mind that my 3 sources of data weren't exactly on prime time multiplayer. I imagine on Friday, for example, from 5 to 7, that a lot more people would be playing this. I haven't tested that yet, so that's all up in the air for now. I'm quite upset that this game's multiplayer isn't as successful as it was, but currently there's just not anybody playing it, so I can't currently recommend it. In the option settings, there are quite a few things in order to tweak your resolution scale and your render quality in order to get the best frame rates per second. I can't even run it on the maximum settings, and I have a 980 Ti, which is kind of upsetting, but you know, I do appreciate that if you do have like a monster of a machine, then you can really experience what it's like to be in an asteroid field or something like that. Controls for this game are something that I definitely have a gripe with. I feel like the way that the system works with the left trigger as a thruster and the right trigger as your controls is a little bit janky. A lot of people in other reviews have mentioned their complaints about this, that it is very disorienting when the tracking isn't completely perfect and when you're not used to it. So if you're aware of that, then you can play this game. However, I do hope that the developers of this game in the future perhaps change the controls for the HTC Vive to allow for more of a Ritchie's Plank experiment sense of control. So to wrap up my thoughts here, would I buy this game? Only for the single player experience, otherwise I would not. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, leave a comment down below if you have any thoughts about the video itself, and as always, have an excellent day.